Bringing the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Francis Collins. Dr. Collins, thanks for joining us again here on GMA. Let's begin with that issue of booster shots. We're seeing Israel offer them, the UK next month. Is it inevitable here?
Well, we're certainly looking at it almost daily. As you heard, FDA oversees this, and the data is gathering both from the U.S. and from what we've learned from places like Israel and the U.K. I would say right now there is not evidence that we need to go ahead with boosters in the United States, but that's an ongoing debate. So let me just be clear, though, that actually the existing approved vaccines in the U.S., Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, do have high effectiveness against Delta. There is no reason to rush forward at this present time for a booster decision, but we're going to watch that day by day.
But what's the harm in moving forward? Is it some concern that it's going to create vaccine hesitancy?
I think we just want to do the thing that's going to help people the most and recognize also that there's a worldwide shortage of vaccines and there are countries desperate to get access. And if the United States, with its large population, decides we need a whole other bunch of vaccines for our country, that means those are not going to be able to go somewhere else. We will do that if that's what's necessary to protect Americans. At the present time, though, the data doesn't convince us that it's time to go forward.
We are starting to see some children get more seriously ill with the virus and this other respiratory virus in addition to COVID. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it is very true that Delta seems capable of not just giving severe illness to older people, but also to adolescents and even children. Another reason, I think, why we really have to push forward as much as we can with getting vaccination rates up. I'm encouraged, by the way, to see a 56% increase in vaccinations over the last 2 weeks, and especially so in places that are being hit hard by Delta, like Missouri and Arkansas, Louisiana, Florida, which you've already heard about this morning. We need to push that. If you're really worried about the kids, well, let's get the people who can be vaccinated at a higher rate. We've got a long way to go in some of those communities to get to the point where people are protected.
We heard Dr. Fauci say yesterday on This Week that things are going to get worse before they get better, but he doesn't think that lockdowns are going to be needed. How do you see the fall playing out?
Well, I agree. We want to avoid lockdowns at all costs, but that means we're going to have to do some other things that won't necessarily be welcomed by people, such as the new recommendation of wearing masks in indoor gatherings, even if you're vaccinated, because we learned from that outbreak in Massachusetts that vaccinated people can probably transmit this, even though they are very well protected against severe disease. It will mean schools really need to have kids masked so that they're protected from being the source of spreading as well. And that's not popular with kids or parents. But if we want to avoid a more severe outcome that might lead to more extreme measures like lockdowns, we know what to do. We just need to do it. And oh my goodness, it would be so good if we could have that conversation about the data and the evidence and the public health arguments and get politics out of it. Unfortunately, that's not where we are at the present time in the United States of America.
You know, one of the things we've seen in England is the huge drop in cases in the last couple of weeks, even as they've opened up, and they were so worried about the surge earlier this summer. How do you explain it? Should we expect that as well?
It's kind of puzzling, George. I don't know that most of us were expecting to see that. Is that because this variant is so wildly contagious that you've actually seen the point arrive where most people have gotten infected, or at least enough anyway, that you're starting to get to herd immunity from natural infection? That's not something we want to see happen because that's going to cost a lot of lives, but it's interesting to see that drop. And there are people like Scott Gottlieb saying that's going to happen here too. I think he's in the minority. I think most of the projections say we're in for a really tough August, September, October. The best thing we can do to try to mute that very steady rise in the curve is to get more people vaccinated as quickly as possible. So if somebody's listening who's been on the fence, listen to that story from the guy in the ICU who wished he'd gotten vaccinated. Look in the Post today at the 39-year-old father whose final text to his wife was, I should have gotten the damn vaccine. Come on, folks. We have enough evidence now not to question the safety and efficacy of these vaccines. There is no more reason to hold back.
Amen to that. Dr. Collins, thanks for your time and your information.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.